Wendell Ladner was a very unique player in the NBA, as he wasn't the most skilled offensively or the most athletic, but he gave 110% every time, even if it resulted in him usually fouling out of the game. He was an all-star in his first 2 seasons coming out of Southern Miss, as he was great on the boards, although he was undersized and only 6'5". But his biggest claim to fame were his stories of the many escapades with women, as his Burt Reynolds-like looks made him a popular figure amongst the ladies. He was also known to get into fights very often, especially with John Brisker, another hothead, but his temper led to him being traded multiple times in his first 5 years. Unfortunately, his life was cut short in a plane crash at the age of 26, marking a tragic end to one of the more interesting characters in ABA history. This is PZ Hoops, and welcome to another episode of ABA Tales. Wendell was born October 6, 1948 in the Case Crossing, Mississippi. Initially, he was more into football, as he scored 6 touchdowns in one game and rushed for 3 in his only appearance as a fullback, leading to him being heavily recruited by Ole Miss. But when the basketball team won the state title with him averaging 37 points a game, he shocked everyone by committing to play for Southern Miss. Over his 3 years there, he averaged 21 points and 16 rebounds, setting new scoring and rebounding records at the school. Wendell was drafted in the second round of the 1970 ABA draft by the Memphis Pros, as he was quickly signed before any NBA teams had a chance at him. Memphis had a solid backcourt with Steve and Jimmy Jones, along with Gerald Govan, not the best offensive player, but a great rebounder and passer. Wendell would start at small forward and make an immediate impact. He dropped 24 points and 11 rebounds on 75% shooting in his pro debut against the Nets. He recorded 50 double-doubles with 21 20-point games, 4 30-point games, and 5 games with more than 20 rebounds. He was one of 3 rookies along with Charlie Scott and Dan Issel to make the All-Star game, much to his surprise. Memphis was a team that preferred to slow things down, so they allowed the fewest points in the league, but they scored the fewest points as well. For his rookie season, Wendell averaged 17 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, as the 41 and 43 pros faced the Pacers in the division semifinals. Memphis was completely outmatched as they were swept, with Wendell shooting 26% in the series. Wendell would start the season still with Memphis, and he was having some solid performances, putting up a career-high 34 points and 10 rebounds against Carolina and 31 points and 13 rebounds, including 4 threes against the Nets. But when 1975 started, he was on a new team, as he was traded to the Cougars for Warren Davis, Randy Denton, and George Lehman. Carolina wasn't a good team, but they still had some great players like Larry Miller, Jim McDaniels, and Joe Caldwell. Wendell played a meaningful role with his new team, dropping 23 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists against Pittsburgh, and 28 points, 22 rebounds, and 4 assists against Indiana. For some reason, he took 236 threes, more than 20% of his total shot attempts. He only made 61 for a 26% clip, which was 12th in the league, an obvious sign of the times. Carolina was still bad though, so they finished 35 and 49, missing the playoffs. Wendell was an all-star again, averaging 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. Wendell was traded back to Memphis in the offseason, but he would only play 15 games with them before being traded to the Kentucky Colonels, an elite team that featured Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, Louis Dampier, and Rick Mount. Wendell was brought in as an enforcer, as during a game versus the Condors, he entered their locker room telling John Brisker, "Hey John, you want to fight now or wait for the game?" Since the Colonels were loaded, Wendell's minutes went down to about 18 a game, but he was still productive, dropping 20 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists against the Cougars on February 15th, along with back-to-back games with 6 steals in late March. Kentucky had the best defense in the league, finishing 56 and 28 on the season. But Wendell's biggest highlight would be off the court, as he did his best Burt Reynolds impersonation, posing nude for Cosmopolitan magazine, with the ABA ball being the only thing covering his privates, as the poster sold out very quickly. After that poster came out, Wendell really played up to that image. During timeouts, women jockeyed for position behind the Colonel's bench to giggle and shout sweet nothings to him as he brushed his hair away from his eyes and smiled back at them. Wendell averaged 7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. He put up double figures twice in their semifinal matchup against the Squires, as they would win in 5 games. He had spotty minutes in the division finals against Carolina, but he dropped 23 points and 4 rebounds with 4 threes in Game 4. His biggest moment of the series would be in Game 6, when he dove for a loose ball, running into a water cooler and knocking over the glass bottles on top. When he got back up to get in the game, the trainer stopped him because he was bleeding profusely from his arm. After getting 37 stitches, he begged to get back in the game, but the coaches wouldn't let him. The Colonels would win this series in 7 games, facing the Pacers in the ABA Finals. Wendell would have limited minutes in this series, as the Colonels lost in 7. Wendell started the season with Kentucky, and he was playing his best basketball in a while, dropping 18 points and 15 rebounds against Carolina, and 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists against New York. But on January 24th, Wendell was traded for the 4th time in his career, this time to the Nets to protect Julius Erving. Although Erving would call him his wackiest teammate ever, even saying he wanted to be Burt Reynolds with a basketball. With the team's lineup already set, Wendell was buried on the bench, but he would have some solid games to the end of the season, dropping 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals on 7 of 7 shooting against the Squires, and 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists, including 4 threes against the Pacers. Wendell averaged 8.5 points, 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2 steals, as the Nets finished 55-29, facing the Squires in the semifinals. He scored double figures in the series 3 times, as the Nets won in 5. They swept the Colonels in the next round, as Wendell dropped 15 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals in Game 2. He had a limited role in the finals against Utah, but the Nets won in 5, giving Wendell his first championship. Wendell only played 25 games in 1974, dropping 16 points and 13 rebounds against the Sounds, and 22 points in the season finale against Virginia. The Nets finished 58-26 behind an MVP season from Dr. J, so they faced the Spirits in the semifinals, but the Nets would lose in 3 games, as Wendell didn't play that much. He averaged 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.5 steals. On June 24, 1975, Wendell boarded Eastern Airlines Flight 66 from New Orleans to New York City. The plane departed without any reported difficulty at 1:19 p.m., with 124 people on board. A severe thunderstorm hit JFK Airport just as Flight 66 was approaching the New York City area. At 3:52, the approach controller warned all incoming aircraft that the airport was experiencing very light rain showers and haze, with 0 visibility, and that all approaching aircraft would need to perform instrumental landings. At 3:53, Flight 66 was approaching the runway. 6 minutes later, the controller warned all aircraft of a severe wind shift on the final approach, as the aircraft encountered a microburst, or a wind shear environment created by the severe storms. The plane continued its descent until it began striking the approach lights approximately 2,400 feet from the start of the runway. Upon the first impact, the plane banked to the left. It continued striking the approach lights until it burst into flames and scattered the wreckage along Rockaway Boulevard. Of the 124 people on board, 107 passengers and 6 crew members were killed. The other 11 people on board, including 9 passengers and 2 flight attendants, were injured but survived. Wendell wasn't among them. Ladner died at the age of 26, as his body was identified by medical examiners only because he was wearing his Nets ABA championship ring. After his death, a street in Perkinston, Mississippi was named in his honor. Wendell was never the best player on the court, but he always hustled and did the little things to help the team win. His personality and penchant for fighting made him one of the more unique characters in ABA history, but it's unfortunate that his life was taken so soon, as he definitely had a lot more basketball left to play. Thank you guys, I really appreciate you guys for watching. I know I've always seen Wendell Ladner when I was looking at my videos, especially when I was researching for John Brisker, and I was looking at this dude, like, he was a tough guy, another enforcer. The ABA had a whole bunch of enforcers, like really tough guys who just like to fight people. Especially since him and John had such a rivalry, and it's just crazy how, he RIP, man, he passed. He definitely could have played a lot more basketball, man, RIP. He wasn't the best player, but he was definitely someone that hustled, gave a whole bunch of effort. He's like a Kenneth Fareed type of guy, like hustle plays, monster on the boards, can score inside. Definitely not the same athlete that Fareed was. Like a play style, like a hustle guy, like an undersized hustle guy who can get the boards, who can score inside, who can play some defense, Even though he wasn't the best 3-point shooter, he was definitely chucking them up there. 236 threes is crazy. I'm sorry. But RIP Wendell, man. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Turn my post notifications on. Thank you. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.